Thanks, Dan. As Dan said, I'm Tim Brayman with Revegy. So y'all need to hold on tight because even though I'm a Southerner and usually I talk slow, we're going to rocket through this Revinar and leave about 5 minutes at the end for questions. Revegy is an 8-year-old software company providing enterprise applications to help companies grow revenue through effective planning and execution at the account, opportunity, and channels level. I'm based here in Atlanta, Georgia, but frankly, it seems like I spend most of my life here. I've had the privilege of working with some of the most interesting companies in the world on their sales and account management issues, helping them to deploy global sales enablement programs. I've been able to do this not just here in the United States, but also around the world. It's given me a chance to meet interesting people and understand their local and cultural challenges in sales and account management. Here's our agenda. First, why is it a bad idea to do account planning in Excel, Word, or PowerPoint? If we automate, what are the best practices? And last, what's the business value of fixing this? So when it comes to revenue from your customers, the 80-20 rule, sometimes known as the Pareto rule, applies for business-to-business companies. What I'm showing you here is the top portion of a report that shows the largest revenue customers for a mid-sized company, so about $500 million in revenue. This is taken from one of our customers and it's obfuscated or fuzzied up so to kind of protect the innocent. They have about 2,000 customers. Average annual revenue is about $253,000. This list shows the top dozen customers and the percentage of revenue that each customer accounts for. Now, like I said, this data has been kind of muddled up to protect the innocent, but it doesn't make any difference whether you're a small company or a much larger company. Here's the same report, about $8 billion in revenue for this particular customer. We're looking at the percentage of revenue on the right-hand side from each of their top 12 customers. It's obvious from this report that if a company gets $65 million per year from J&J, now remember, not really them, and their average customer spend is $137,000, then these are some big darn customers. Now, when you graph your customer revenue, it looks like this. Your top customers are generating a huge percentage of your overall revenue. And the cross-industry averages show that typically 20% of your top customers represent 60 to 80% of your revenue. Now, part of that's by design, right? We've engaged strategically with our best customers in order to penetrate wider and deeper and sell more of our solutions. But also, purchasing agents over the last decade have been working hard to funnel more and more spend to fewer and fewer companies. As a matter of fact, the Institute for Supply Management indicates a key portion of the compensation or bonus for procurement is tied to getting 80% of a company's spend to the fewest number of suppliers. Now, for those of you on the call today, the odds are good that your company has spent millions, if not tens of millions of dollars over the last 10 to 20 years, implementing ERP and supply chain solutions from companies like Oracle, SAP, and Red Prairie, data warehouse and business intelligence solutions from IBM, Teradata, Informatica, and others. But based on a recent CSO Insights sales management study, the majority of you are still account planning using Excel, Word, or PowerPoint. So let's recap. You implemented an automated system for the back office, but for the 1, 3, or 5-year planning of how you're going to strategically engage with your best customers to drive larger and more predictable streams of revenue, you're probably still using Excel. Frankly, that's kind of like bringing a knife, even a big knife, to a gunfight. So let's talk about the challenges with account planning in Excel and other virtual paper tools. First, from the perspective of the account manager, it looks like a form. Account managers and sales reps hate to fill out forms. And frankly, it has a lot of pages to fill out. Now, I've never actually seen an account plan that was 1,429 pages long, but I have seen some that get close to 100 pages. I'm not really sure how the person filling out that account plan actually has time to manage their account. Now, challenge number 2 is the lost update scenario, right? As the account manager, you bring everybody together to create the plan. You fill it out, then you email it out to your team, and you ask them to provide any final updates after they review it. But now you've got this huge manual effort to correlate and rekey all the changes when they come back. Now even if you use some kind of content management system or repository or file sharing device to save the account plan, there's really no integrity if multiple people are updating at the same time. Or if somebody starts to edit and then gets on an airplane without saving it, so you get lost changes. And then maybe the boss asks a question about the plan when he or she is reviewing it. You spend hours researching only to discover that he or she is looking at an old version of the plan. That's horrifying. The third challenge is that of the manager. Now they're responsible for evaluating the account plans, providing feedback and coaching, as well as periodic progress reviews of your account plan. Now the problem is there's no easy way for the manager to evaluate the plans for each of your accounts, and then the account plans for each of your peers, and their plans and their peers, and so on. Time out! This creates a huge waste of very valuable management time, plus the time of the account managers who are now doing lots of low-value data entry, fixing errors, searching for the latest version, and managing a collection of PowerPoints or Excel documents instead of out generating revenue and building strategic relationships. So is it any wonder why management thinks we do a poor job of strategic account planning? According to CSO Insights, almost 55% of managers feel we need improvements in the development of strategic plans for key accounts. Now the last challenge is the CEO-CFO challenge. These are key accounts, your most important and largest customers. They generate a huge amount of your revenue, and you have aggressive revenue targets to hit as a company. Unfortunately, it's really hard to manage what you can't measure. So how does the CEO-CFO measure the quality of the plans, the progress against the budgeted revenue, and identify the customers at risk? Has anybody seen that movie where the big ship hits an iceberg and then sinks? Okay, let's take a look at two more areas where effective account planning can help. First, how well do we introduce new products produced by our product management and manufacturing teams to our customers? Not so good. Next, how well do we further penetrate our key accounts, branching into additional business with additional buying centers or business units? We don't do so good here either. All right, that's enough pain. Let's go looking for some aspirin. Let's talk about some best practices in automating account plans, and not just the plans, but also the execution against the plan. I personally love the quote, "You don't plan to fail, you fail to plan." But that's really only half the equation, because it's two of these together, planning and execution, that get the job done. Now I'm going to do something a little strange for a vendor here. While I believe that Revegy has the best account planning solution on the planet, I'm also going to talk about the competitors in terms of building it yourself with custom code from IT or even some competitors' products. So first, let's look at your account manager as if they are the customer. Because in fact, for an account planning and execution tool, they are the customer. Remember, they're visual people. You put them in front of a customer. If there's a whiteboard, in 5 minutes they're going to be up there drawing pictures on the board. So, what are the key elements or attributes of automated account planning? First is process. Right? I'm a big believer that you've got to have a process as foundation. And then tools. Tools that are visual like your account managers and work the way they want to work. Metrics, analytics, key performance indicators, all essential to tracking progress, success, and identifying risks. Salesforce automation integration is also a key element here. Account and sales teams hate duplicate data entry. Makes them crazy. So first, let's look at the process. Right? You need a process to determine where you are in your planning and execution with each and every key customer. So provide the teams with a process map. Enable them to tick off or check box the completed activities. Not only is this helpful in onboarding new managers by providing them a visual guide, but it also gives management and executives the ability to see at a glance where each account is in the process and comparing to other accounts where they may need to intervene or support. Now you don't actually have to use Revegy to do this. If you have an SFA like Oracle or Salesforce or SAP, you can simply build a small object that represents the key tasks or milestones in your process. But remember, be flexible. Different business units and geographies often want slightly different version of process and tools. Next up are the decision makers, right? The key stakeholders. Now this is one of the most crucial tools for account management. According to the Strategic Account Management Association in their recent study, on average there are 12 key decision makers in a strategic account. Now the problem with a text-based form like this is that it doesn't really assist well with the critical thinking that we need from our account manager, who are mostly visual. But with a visual stakeholder map, you compress time by instantly visualizing the who's who in the zoo. You can change a 30-minute discussion to a 3-minute briefing, as it's instantly obvious where we have friends, where we have enemies, and we can quickly identify where we need to build relationships to successfully expand our revenue footprint. So visual mapping is a key element. Now there are other tools available like this one from Org Plus, and the Salesforce.com App Exchange, the Oracle Cloud Store, and the Apple Store are great places to source these apps from. Now, as you do this, make sure that you can capture whatever attributes you need around the role of each stakeholder, their political power in the organization, the strength of your relationship with them, perhaps who in your organization owns the relationship, or even I've seen companies putting in here things like communication style of the stakeholder, using tools like DISC or the Herman Brain Dominance tool. Additionally, it's also important to understand which business units or buying centers in which you have a presence and where your competition may be entrenched through using Whitespace or heat mapping. Earlier, we talked about the importance of executing upon your account plan. So instead of a process where we fill it out once a year, we drop it in a drawer, and then next year we pull it out, dust it off, and go through the lather, rinse, repeat cycle, we need to make these things executable. Now all CRM and Salesforce automation systems have activities or tasks, but these are typically the day-to-day operational tasks. The real crucial element here is to align these tasks with the goals and objectives that you've defined in your account plan so that you can ensure that you're making progress towards achieving those goals and objectives. Now, a former manager of mine, he used to say, hey, don't confuse activity with progress, right? So that's what we want to document and understand is, are we making progress towards our goals? Additionally, we want to leverage automation here to save time. Make sure that automated emails and reminders are sent out to all the participants. One of the most abused concepts of account planning is that it's a solo task, right? The account manager gathers together a team, they create and review the plan, and then it's the end of the day and everybody walks out the door and says, hey, Mr. Account Manager, have fun executing on all those tasks. This is a sure recipe for disaster. Account planning and execution is a team sport. Each person on the team, account manager, operations, support, finance, marketing, etc., must be assigned tasks, and the software needs to support the account manager in managing the plan execution. Next up, analytics. Being able to look across a collection of account plans at your high-performing revenue customers and where your relationships are with them to identify potentially customers at risk or accounts at risk where you've got really strong revenue but weak relationships. That's just an example. Another example would be to identify exactly where we are against budget and revenue for each particular account, as well as then looking across all of our accounts to see how we're tracking against our revenue goals for each. Now these are just samples. Think about the power of being able to analyze the data from all your account plans. Think about the impact on performance and operations that you could harvest from this information. So lastly in the key attributes is SFA integration. So in reality, there's no place in your SFA for 90% of the data in an account plan. In an SFA, other than the forecast, they're predominantly repositories for that 360-degree historical view of the customer, what's happened in the past. But account planning fundamentally is a forward-looking 1, 3, or 5-year exercise around strategically engaging with your key customers to deliver mutual value. Here on this screen are the most common fields that are shared between account planning and your SFA. But also, it's not just SFA. Don't forget your financial system. This is typically where your product, contract, and financial history with the customer live. That data is rarely in an SFA. Now, the key here is really the contact data. This is the high volume data that's most frequently entered, and forcing duplicate data entry in the account plan and into your CRM really frustrates the account managers around this. And you know them, none of us like being around frustrated account managers. All right, so now, last step. Let's talk about the value of automation here. So in general, customers are going to value you based upon your actions. Customers are kind of bucketize you basically. So if you act like a product expert, they think of you as a vendor and they're going to push you off to the purchasing folks. You know, if you act as a consultant, they see you solving problems and you might get invited back. However, if you continuously deliver value, then you're a trusted partner and are invited to the boardroom on a regular basis. And once you reach trusted partner, money rains from the sky. One of my core personal beliefs is that if you make your customers successful, they're going to make you successful. So notice the huge improvements in win rates and account managers achieving quota once you become trusted partner. According to that most recent study by SAMA, the Strategic Account Management Association, the average revenue growth for strategically managed accounts is 80% higher than the revenue growth from other accounts. And recall, our biggest, most strategic customers are generating 60 to 80% of our revenue. So if we can grow that revenue base 80% faster than for our other accounts, that's a huge impact on the top and bottom line. All right, that gets us to the end of the webinar. We're going to open things up for questions. But what we covered off was the 4 key challenges related to using Excel, Word, or PowerPoint for account planning, 4 key attributes of automating account planning, and then lastly, what's the specific business value of doing an excellent job of both creating strategic account plans and then executing upon them. So Dan, I'm going to turn things back over to you to start getting some questions from folks.